Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and so glad to have you along with us as we welcome the month of Rocktober. Rocktober, arguably the best time of the year if you love the outdoors. Why do I say that? Because of the great fall fishing, because bow season is open now, small game season is open now, waterfowl season is opening up, bear season wrapping up. Oh, it's just a great time of year. As I got up this morning, it was 44 degrees outside. No, it wasn't, obviously. It wasn't 44 inside. I didn't need to say outside. It was 44 degrees. Beautiful sunrise. It just felt wonderful. I got a text from my grandson, T-Man. He said, oh, man, he said, I almost got a shot on a big doe. So that made it an even better morning. So it is Rocktober. How is your week? What has happened to you in your world in the last week since we've talked? Well, I've had, I don't know, kind of an interesting week. In some ways, kind of a special week. I was bear hunting with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer, up in the UP, trying to get my first Michigan black bear. This was my 4th season of bear hunting in Michigan to try to get my first bear. Now, I've taken quite a few bears all across Canada. I have hunted Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec for bears. And I've taken bears in every one of those provinces except for Alberta. And I was trying to add them up. I don't know. I've taken like 15 or 16 bears, something roughly over the years, but never taken one in Michigan. So my goal this year, really, it was I really wanted to take a bear. I decided to use a gun on this hunt, my Brenton 350 Legend. I've never taken a bear with a gun. All of them have been bow kills, either recurve, compound, or crossbow. I'm not sure why I wanted to. It just seemed appropriate in some ways to take my first Michigan bear with a Michigan-made gun. Plus, I was curious. I wanted to see what a gun would do to a bear. I know what an arrow will do to a bear. A well-placed arrow will put a bear down in just a very, very short distance. And I've been pretty fortunate. Most of my hits on bears have been very good, and I either watched them go down or heard them go down. There was one hunt in Ontario where I hit a bear back too far, and we had to trail him. Fortunately, we did recover him, but I think of a bow as a very, very effective tool. So I'm hunting with Johnny, and I've only got 1 day to hunt. More on that in a little bit. But I've got 1 day to hunt. I've got to get back downstate. So I didn't realize how much pressure Johnny Bowler was feeling. He really wanted me to get a bear, and he knew I had a limited time to do that. So I'm set up about 70 yards from the bait, which was unusual. I mean, I'm not used to sitting that far away from the bait with my 350 Legend. And I've already decided that I'm not going to be picky. Now, I'm not going to shoot a cub, but I'm not going to hold out for a really big bear. So I get out there at noon for a long sit because, again, I've got 1 day. 7 o'clock, a bear sneaks in from straight away from me. And I look at him and I think, okay, yeah, he's a good bear. He's not a big bear. He's not a small bear. He's a good, solid bear. Definitely, I will shoot him if he gives me this shot. So he comes into the bait. He circled around the bait. He turned sideways. He quartered away, looked over his shoulder, and I said, oh, man, this is too good to pass up. So I settled the crosshair on the scope behind his shoulder. I squeezed the trigger. Boom, the gun goes off. And by the way, this is the first time I've ever hunted with a suppressor on that gun, too. And I was actually quite surprised how loud it still was. Hit the bear. He somersaulted forward. He rolled down the hill, and he died 12 yards from the bait. And then I got to hear, and this is you have to be a bear hunter to understand this, but then I got to hear the death moan, which is very rewarding because you know you've got an animal out there that's waiting for you that you made a quick, clean, humane killing shot on. So it was pretty cool, and I really enjoyed it. And we didn't put him on a scale, but he's about 200 pounds. Again, a very good, solid, nice, respectable Michigan black bear, and he's going to taste great. What really got my attention on this hunt was the reaction to my hunt. Now, the Wednesday that my season started, I did a Behind the Mic segment from the field. That is a live stream that I do every Wednesday morning. It goes to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. As part of the live stream, I'm talking about my upcoming hunt, and in the back of my truck, my gun is laying there in the case, unloaded, and the case is open, and you can see my gun. The minute YouTube saw that gun, it quit. It deleted my feed. They did it because I said it violated their standards. I checked their standards. There's nothing in YouTube that says you can't show a gun in a case. So then, after the fact, I post a picture of my bear, me sitting over my bear, smiling, got a lot of good response. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And then I also posted the video of the shot because I had a camera running, because that's kind of what I do, or at least kind of what I certainly used to do. And I posted that. That video got over 1 million views, 9,000 likes. Now, back up. When I posted this, I said, here's video of the shot. Warning, this is graphic. If you will be offended, don't watch. 1 million views, 9,000 likes, 200 shares, 700 comments. Most of those comments were people saying, hey, man, nice job. Congrats. You really, a good shot. And then there's the overwhelming response from the hardcore anti-hunters, which I expect. I mean, really vile, crude, mean, threatening comments. You should have been the one who died instead of that bear. If I ever get a chance, I'll kill you for killing that bear. I mean, and that's just the beginning of it. I mean, it goes on, and it's very disturbing. But I expect those. That's par for the course. But what bothers me were the large number of comments from people who say they're fellow hunters, like TJ Fulcher. TJ says baiting animals and hunting them from a blind is like sitting on the couch and claiming you're a football player. Hump an elk 15 miles through the mountains or stalk a mountain lion, then you can call yourself a hunter. Ron Staclosa says there's no reason to bait. Real hunters stalk and finish the hunt. You all that bait are, and he used a really bad word that I can't use here now. He says baiting isn't hunting. TikTok removed video of me just sitting over the bear talking about it and notching my tag. They said it violated their standards. Facebook eventually hid that video because of sensitive content. They said sensitive content. It just pointed out to me, and again, the vast majority of comments on this were positive, but this points out to me how we are, and I'm going to use a very strong term here, we are in some ways at war. Those of us who love to hunt, we're in a battle right now. We are in a battle to protect and maintain our way of life, because there are certainly those out there who hate us. They hate us, and they've told me they just soon see me dead because we hunt. And then there's the folks who say they're hunters, but they criticize other hunters for legal ways to hunt because they're not ways that they agree with. We got to get past that. Got to get past that. I told you I had one day to hunt because I had to get back downstate. Because the next day, or a day later, my daughter Shelby and her husband Aditya had a baby. We knew it was coming. That's why I could only have a one-day hunt. I had to get home for the new baby, the new grandbaby. And he's beautiful, and he's perfect, and we are so blessed. Thank you, Lord. And congrats, Shelb and Aditya and little Bean. That's what I call him, Bean. That's what we all call him for now, Bean. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, Captain Jeff Godi talks about waterfowl hunting. Then the most interesting man in Michigan, Bill Hoffman, he actually wrote a song about me. Now, I thought I was really kind of special. I didn't ask him to do it, but I was thinking, man, I must be really special. And then I heard the rest of the details. Anyway, hour number 2, Mike Horswill of Jay's Sporting Goods on processing your own venison, plus Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats. And in our third hour, the Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart, plus wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, and actually your fall waterfowl hunting destination as well. This time of year, though, there is some great fall fishing to be had. If you are calling it a season, Linwood Beach can also help you put the boat to bed for the wintertime. They can winterize the boat. They can store it. They can shrink wrap it. I need to get my angler quest over to the folks at Linwood Beach and have them get her ready for the wintertime season. And if we get ice this year, if we get ice, Linwood Beach is also a great place to jump out on Saginaw Bay to do some ice fishing. Great people, great facilities, great location. Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. If you spend any time around Linwood Beach Marina, you have probably seen Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience. Jeff fishes out of Linwood Beach. He also does a lot of work with the folks there, and he's just an all-around good guy. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Cap, welcome back. How have you been?
Good, Mike. Good. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Before we get into the fall waterfowl hunting, let's talk about your season, this past season on the bay. What kind of a year was it?
East wind, northeast wind.
Oh, okay.
How's that?
So that wasn't just me. That wasn't just me, huh?
It wasn't just the spot you went out of. Yeah. We had a lot of wind this year. When we did get out, fishing was good. Fish were bigger this year. At least I thought so. We got some nice fish this year. But yeah, it was a lot of windy days, and I'm pretty considerate with my family groups. Mom, dad, and the kids. I mean, days you could fish, but gosh, it's not going to be fun. I try to reschedule them if we can. So lost a few days on that, but you get out when you can, you have fun when you can, and Mother Nature's always in charge. Always in charge. And I agree with you completely. Just because you could fish doesn't mean you want to. You can get out there. The boat can handle it. All of our boats these days can handle that stuff. But, man, you're just bouncing around so much. It's just not fun. Yeah, I tend to give folks options. And, if they think that there's even a chance that somebody's going to get sick or something, I give them their options. It just makes for a better day for everybody.
Yeah. What about...
Maybe I'm getting old.
Well, I know I am, but maybe we're getting smart. Maybe that's what it is.
We'll chalk it up as smart.
There we go. What about the fall fishing? We got some good fishing coming up. Are you seeing any signs of that yet? And perch, any perch action out there?
That's always the big question at the marina. Admittedly, I have not been around too much. I did a little vacation out to Yellowstone and did some early goose hunting, so haven't been there. But things I'm hearing that when they get perch, man, they're getting some nice ones. A couple of the campers that have boats in the slips had some banner days out there with 40-something fish for a couple, and many fish in the 12 to 14-inch range. Crazy size. But it seems to be hit or miss. And I will tell you that perch people are the least likely ones to tell you where and how. That's a fact. That's top secret.
I know it. If you took a group of morel mushroom hunters and a group of perch fishermen and put them in the room, there would be no conversation at all between those two groups. They wouldn't say a word.
I agree. It'd be a quiet room.
Now, you said you were out for early goose season. Are those hunts all field hunts, Jeff? Are you out on the bay for those?
My intent was to get on the bay this year, but I had some good fields come down. Harvested wheat fields, and then some bean fields came down. So I did everything. On land. We had some fun hunts, and a couple frustrating hunts where they were there yesterday and not there today. That's going to happen. But for the most part, we had a nice early goose season, and I didn't chase those teal. And I'm a big advocate for the early teal season, but I never got after them because I just never got on the water. We hunted land.
Those are strictly that's a water hunt. You never see those inland?
Not like a mallard that'll come in and feed on the harvested grain as much. They're a shallow water dabbler for sure. I won't say that you can't shoot one in the field, but yeah, a little bit of sheet water doesn't take much for those little characters to come in. And in the past, we've had some fun hunts on those. And as these bay levels trend down a little bit, I'm sure it's going to get even better. And I did get some good reports of Saginaw Bay teal hunts from guys, so that bodes well for the future.
How do you ever hit those little things?
You don't have to be a good shot. You just got to be a convincing claimer. That's what I tell everybody. Hey, I got that one. Yeah, it actually some of the best shots you ever make will probably be on the teal because it turns into a fast swing and stink, and you're not thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're just pulling up and swinging and doing what you should do probably with every shot.
Yeah.
Let the mind body take over.
How is it hunting waterfowl inland on dry land versus going out there in the big water like the bay? It's got to be two completely different experiences, isn't it?
It is. I always said that if I'm going to have a slow day, I'd much rather be on the water because there's more to see. You have shorebirds, this, that, and the others. There's always more going on out on the water. But a land, if you're in a cornfield, well, you're either on the X, as we call it, which is a lot of the guys will call it a feed, where the birds are coming to it and you've scouted it, and sometimes it's not just the right field, but the right spot in a field. So you're either on that or, boy, you're wishing you were, and you're trying to drag birds that are going to the hot spot, and you're trying to convince them you're in the new hot spot. So field hunting, man, feast or famine a lot of times. So you just, you got to do your homework. Water, a little easier to move typically. You can grab your stuff and move around, where it's fields unless you have permission on fields. And that's getting tougher to get. A lot of leases now, and farmers, I think, are a little more protective of their land, and it's easier for them to say, hey, they've got a family member that's going to hunt.
Sure.
And just eliminate all the hassles. So, that's with deer hunting and everything. I'm sure you see that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You mentioned water levels on the bay, Jeff. They are coming down. Does that help or hurt waterfowl hunting?
Personally, I think it's going to help our duck hunting. And when I say they're coming down, it's not a lot. We saw just a couple inches, I think, from last year. As Scott and I at the marina kind of keep our finger on the pulse of that, and we're looking at just a couple inches from last year, but a couple inches on the Saginaw Bay shoreline can make a huge difference on where that water's at. It can create, that can mean hundreds of yards, and exposing vegetation and things like that. So a little water down makes it just better for those dabblers, exposes more weed growth, and I think the duck hunting will be better as the water trends down.
I have very little experience out there waterfowl hunting. In fact, I think maybe the only 2 trips I took, I think were probably with you. Is it the type of thing where you guys are putting up semi-permanent blinds out there and taking your clients out to those blinds, or are you hunting out of the boat so you can be more mobile?
I ran a blind for about 20 years. We had a floater, converted pontoon, basically just, if you were a kid, you'd say you built a fort on it. I had a little front kitchen table and stove, and you got little spots to shoot out of, and it was comfortable, really comfortable. My clients will probably tell you. But with all the wind we've had, and when the water came up, I decided to get rid of that, and I picked up a 24-foot Sea Arc, a big Mod V, and the mobility has definitely turned into more ducks on the stringers. That's for sure. So there's all kinds for duck hunting, but I tend to run with a boat blind, as we call it now, and it allows me to be mobile and go to different spots, and that's definitely helped me.
And is it common? I mean, in an average day out there, would you hit multiple spots, or can you go out and dial it in and say, man, we got the perfect spot right now. We're just going to spend the day right here?
Well, I usually have a plan A, B, C. Mm-hmm. Somebody might be in plan A, somebody might be in plan B, and then I'm on plan C. So wind forecast gives me a pretty good idea of where I want to be. And then, like I say, Mother Nature does her thing. And, there are other hunters out there that maybe have the same great idea that I had. So you're always making adjustments. And yes, I have moved a couple times in a day, depending on what we've seen. You make your best guess, especially on that later November hunt where we hunt that 20 to 25 foot of water, and we're chasing whole squaws or long-tailed ducks, as they call them now, and scoters. Sometimes a move of a half mile or a mile can put you in a good flight path or a good feeding location, and it's game on. And once you do it, you always say, "Gosh, that was worth the effort."
And geez, why didn't I do that before? Right?
Yeah. Well, when I'm in that deep water, I'll throw what I call a little prospecting spread. We run the long lines, and I'll run sometimes 2 or 3 mother lines if I think I'm in the right spot. And in that deep water, I rely on my dog Link quite a bit. But there are times when you've got multiple birds down, and the water's getting cold in November. And, that boy's got to come home with me every day. So you're like, okay, 5 or 6 ducks down out of a flock. We're going to take the boat and scoop them with the net versus, sending that dog out multiple times in that cold water. Although he's got a great habit of grabbing a couple birds on a trip. So I think he knows he's trying to conserve his energy.
Did you teach him those skills, or did he just inherently was born with them, and you were blessed to get a dog that was good like that?
This character, so my last probably 3 or 4 dogs have grabbed 2 birds. This is the first dog I've been able to send on the second one in the water, and I'm sure a good trainer could maybe teach that, although I know a lot of the retriever contest guys don't want that. I've seen him look at a duck on the water and just swim back to me, then go out again. And then, I've seen him go. Buffalo has a small duck. We got a video of him. I don't know how he got 4. They're a small duck. And he just kept grabbing, and we're laughing and spinning circles. And, if you had a crippled bird, you wouldn't want to do that because now that bird's going to get away. But these were all dead. It was the guys were hooting, and one guy was smart enough to get some video going. And I'll dig back and see if I can't find pictures of that. But that was the craziest thing this dog's ever done. But, yeah, definitely all his limitations are because of me, and all the good stuff is probably instinct.
I don't know if I buy into that. Hang tight, Jeff. We're talking with Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience. You can find him online at the Michigan Experience, michiganexperience.com. You might know Jeff as a very well-known and very good summertime Saginaw Bay walleye captain, but he's also a big waterfowl guy as well. We'll talk about that more after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins, Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality, warm, windproof, weatherproof, waterproof set of clothes and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute. Plus, if you need big sizes, I'm talking 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out there. Or if you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins makes jackets specifically for saddle hunting. You can find them online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Or they're also on Amazon. If you go to Amazon and do a search for VersaSkins brand, you can buy them there as well. VersaSkins, just change your skin for the season you're in. Right now, we're talking about the season of waterfowl hunting with Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience. Jeff, this passion you have for waterfowling, is this something you've been doing since you were a kid, or did this develop later in life?
Oh yeah, Red Ryder BB gun, pair of hip boots with my dad, and right over by Fish Point Lodge when I guided for Doug years ago. I mean, the first place I ever went was probably 3/4 of a mile from there. So, and all my hunting now is probably within, a few miles of those areas. So, Saginaw Bay, it's been the place for me my whole life.
What is it about waterfowl hunting? I mean, again, my very limited experience, it's a lot of work. It's not an easy hunt. Why do you love it so much?
Probably for the social event. I mean, we're talking, drinking coffee. I've got a little propane oven and stove in my blind, in my boat blind, and making food. And you don't have to be quiet. You don't have to worry about cooking and the smells. And when you see birds, you hunker down, and hopefully you get some shooting, and you're back to laughing and drinking coffee and eating food. So just cycle and repeat.
You mentioned decoys earlier. How big of a factor is that, and how do you know what type of a spread to put out in a given situation?
A lot of variables, species that you're after, the place that you're hunting. Big water, open water, like I described, a lot of times requires a lot of decoys. In the marshes, a little pothole, you might be better off with just 3 or 5 decoys in a little pocket to make it look more natural. So it really depends on where you're at and the species you're after. Some group up in big flocks, and that's the key to getting them in. And others are just looking for a little place out of the way. So so many variables, and you're just trying to dial in the area that you're in and the species you're after.
What role? How big a deal is calling? What role does that play?
I think, well, in some species, we don't call much at all. The diving ducks, the big water ducks that dive down underwater for food, I don't call them much at all, although calling those longtails or old squaws becoming more popular because they are pretty vocal. But bluebills, redheads, canvasbacks, not a real vocal bird. Mallard, obviously, everybody knows the mallard quack, right? And, widgeon have a little whistle, and I've used a widgeon whistle, I think, with success. But, most people probably overcall, and, a person that's not a good caller can do a lot more harm than good. It's just subtleties. Maybe like grunting in a buck, you can give them too much, they pin you down. Mm-hmm. But a little bit to turn them. We always say call at their sides and their butts. When they're going away from you, when they're turning is the best time to call to try to get them to swing back. But I believe that they can pin down that sound, especially geese. Unless you have decoys right by your blind, sometimes that can spook the birds and draw them right to you. And have them pick out the blind or hunter movement, things of that nature. So calling is, I think, important, but it's definitely not as important as what we always say is, the right spot. That's probably number one, is getting in the right spot. And that can be from scouting and just knowing your area.
And so when you go out in the morning, are you saying, okay, today we're going to target a specific type of duck, or do you just, whatever's flying that day, that becomes your target?
Yeah, hunting open water as I usually do, we're more into the diving ducks, those species, redheads, bluebills, some canvasbacks, but then you're liable to, we shoot mallards, we shoot pintail, we shoot teal, things of that nature. So anything goes out there, but we're more likely to shoot the diving ducks, and some people would call those the dumber ducks. They're not as picky, they're not as finicky. They spend their most of their life out in the open water, so human contact's a lot less, and they're a little more forgiving, which is nice when you're running the guide service.
Yeah.
Or hunting with your family and friends.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll take a dumb walleye, a dumb deer, a dumb bear, a dumb duck anytime. I mean, I'll take anything I can get. Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, always a pleasure. I would send people to your website, the MichiganExperience.com. They can book trips with you right there, at least get in contact with you on that site. And we'll stay in touch, and we'll talk again soon.
Mike, I always appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
All right. Pleasure is always mine. Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, a guy I have dubbed the most interesting man in Michigan. He is a law enforcement officer. He is a podcaster. He's an author. He is a wedding officiant. He's a bow hunter. And now we find out he's also a composer. His name is Bill Hoffman, coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in let's go to Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. Then let's go north of the bridge to Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. You're probably hunting over your food plots right now. You're not putting in food plots, but keep them in mind as you look at your food plot needs for next year. And don't forget, Killer Food Plots also has attractants and scents that you can use as well. Check out the website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Want to turn my attention now to a guy I call the most interesting man in Michigan. His name is Bill Hoffman. I say he's the most interesting man in Michigan. Law enforcement officer, a softball ump, an author, a wedding officiant, a podcaster, and now I find out he's a composer as well. Okay, so I'm sitting in my office. And I'm having kind of a bad morning, right? I get a text from Bill. He says, "Hey, I wrote this song about you." So he sends me this song, and it was a wonderful song. And I'm thinking, wow, how cool is this? This guy, he picked me out, and he wrote a song about me. So then I thanked him, and he said, "Hey, don't get such a big head. I wrote songs about a bunch of people." Well, we got Bill on the Outdoor Magazine phone line now to talk about that. Just when I thought I was special, Bill Hoffman, you burst my bubble.
You're very special, brother. You were my first, and you'll always remember your first.
So, listen. First of all, thank you for the song. It was a wonderful blessing. I had no idea you were so talented, had such a great voice. You are a man of many talents.
Well, here's the funny thing about that. That's not me singing, man. I wrote the lyrics, and I wrote the style, and composed it, but that, believe it or not, is AI voice.
No. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Bill, why did you do this? And more importantly, why are you involved in this project that you are?
So I'm involved with the Michigan Bow Hunters Association. We're the voice of Michigan's hunting archer. We've been around since 1946. I host a podcast over there. And, I thought, it's October. It's hunting season. It's bow season. Let's do something fun. So what I did, Mike, is I wrote 31 songs that revolve around bow hunting, Michigan, the outdoors, camping, and we're going to release one a day over on the Michigan Bow Hunters podcast. Today is day number 2 as we record this. Surprise to you, you're also mentioned in the song on day number 3 called Legends of Michigan Bow Hunting.
Oh, see, now I'm starting to feel special again.
There you go. Yeah, but no, your song legitimately was the first one I did. It was kind of like the proof of concept to see if I could pull it off. Now, of course, you guys know me as a writer. I've been published in all the major, bow hunting publications, and of course, my books are popular. But never wrote a song before, so now I can say I've written about 33 of them.
Oh, that's wonderful. The books you were talking about, Twins of Prey, among others. I love those. I love those books. So, and then also, you and I had a little conversation back and forth. I said, this is such a nice song. I'm tempted to put video over this. And I said, my concern is by doing this, I'm going to really come across as being egotistical. And I acknowledge that. You said, hey, don't worry about it because you're doing your family a favor. Now, when you're dead, they won't have to put together the video reel for your funeral. You've already got it done. So good suggestion, Bill.
Yeah, I wrote your funeral song for you. You're good.
Oh, man. So it is, tell me about your podcast over there at the Michigan Bow Hunters, because this is just one part of this whole deal.
Oh, sure. So Michigan Bow Hunters was Fred Bear was one of our founding members, along with a couple other gentlemen in 1946. We're the nation's oldest bow hunting activist group, other than Wisconsin. They beat us by a year. But and basically, about every other week, we just publish a educational/entertaining. We focus generally on Michigan. Not all politics, not all tricks and tips. We do a little bit of everything. It's basically you get together for about half an hour with a bunch of buddies that love bow hunting and sit around a campfire and talk about it.
Yeah, I can't beat that. Listen, I appreciate what you're doing. I really do like this song. There's a video of this song on my Facebook page, on my Instagram feed, on YouTube as well. You really did a very, very nice job, and I thank you for that. You're a very talented guy. Again, the most interesting man in Michigan, Bill Hoffman. You can find him at Michigan Bow Hunter Podcast. Thanks again, Bill. I appreciate it.
Hey, have a great day. Appreciate you, Mike.
Yeah, good luck out there in the blind as well. I know you're sitting in the blind right now, Bill.
I am, and so far it's been a slow morning, so we're good.
There's always the hope of getting better. Bill Hoffman, the most interesting man in Michigan, and the author and composer of the Mike Avery song. Here it is.
I host the best outdoor scene. 30 years down the trail, he's still strong, hunting whitetails and casting lines all day long, with a voice that guides you through morning fog, top of the dial out on the morning jog. Oh, Mike Avery, master of the wild, your stories and laughter keep us beguiled. Every fish that you catch, every hunt you embrace brings us closer to nature.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we kick off this month of Rocktober. Arguably the best month of the year. If you won't buy into that, certainly one of the best months of the year. So much going on this time of year. Some great fishing. The hunting seasons are now just about fully open. I mean, we're not seeing firearm season yet, but man, there's just a lot going on. A lot going on. This is the Outdoor Magazine radio show, and I say each week, I think the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM radio station. For several reasons, including they get the content of the show before the podcast version is uploaded. I do a podcast, though. I do a podcast version of this radio show. It's exactly the same same content. You can hear that on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, now called X, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, yada, 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 Odyssey, YouTube. Yes, I put it on YouTube. And I would encourage you, if you can't listen to the show on your local radio station, to check out the podcast version. Now, I also do podcasts that don't air on the air, on the radio show. Each month I do podcasts for Angler Quest, the new Angler Quest, QUEST, Primal Outdoors, Offshore Tackle. In fact, when we're done here in the studio, we will record this month's Offshore Tackle podcast. You can hear that on their website, offshoretackle.com. That's offshoretackle.com. Regardless of how you are hearing my voice, when you are hearing my voice, thank you. I do certainly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. I enjoy doing this. Not ready to retire. I have no plans of retiring. Of course, I always say my plans and God's plans are not always. I was going to say not necessarily the same, sometimes not even usually the same. But I had a really great week since we've last talked. The birth of a new grandson, which was just absolutely wonderful. Congrats, Shelby and Aditya. And welcome to the world, Bean, grandson Bean. And I was also able to take my first Michigan black bear. I took that with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer, in near Seney. I actually took it with a 350 Legend instead of a bow. That was an interesting experience. I talk at length about that in the first hour. I did not process that bear myself. I did reach into my pocket, pull out my Rapid River knife, and I field dressed, also known as gutted, the bear. But then I took it to the processor to get it skinned and quartered and deboned, and then they shipped it off to my friends at Michigan Brand Meats to have brats and burger made out of it. Now, that is a great option, but a lot of people like to do their own processing, whether it's a bear or a deer, more commonly. There is a lot of satisfaction in doing your own processing. You know how it's done. It's done exactly as you like it, up to the standards that you expect. I have never talked with a guy who knows more about processing your own wild game than Mike Horswill. Mike just happens to work at Jay's Sporting Goods, jsportinggoods.com, and they sell processing gear there. But every fall, I look forward to talking with Mike because he is an absolute master at this, and he joins us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line today. Mike, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Mike. Thank you.
Listen, I appreciate you letting me briefly interrupt your vacation, so that means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, and it's always my pleasure to share my knowledge with others and help them along the way. If they're interested in doing their own deer, I'll share any of the knowledge and experiences I've had, and I'm happy to do that.
And you've had a lot of experience with this, Mike.
Absolutely. I started doing it as a young man. I'm 61 years old now, and my brother and I started doing it when I was about 15. So by trial and error, we've come up with a system that works great for us. We know, from experience where to make the cuts and do it the most efficiently and get the result that we want.
So how long does it take you guys when you're working as a team to process a whitetail?
Well, if we want to go start to finish and just make burger and steaks, and if we just go nonstop, we can do it, and we take our time, 4 or 5 hours. would be start to finish nonstop if we're kind of under the gun or we have something else going on. We prefer to break it down into sessions, especially as we've gotten older. It's less cumbersome. It's easier to do. It's more enjoyable, especially if you have a buddy or two helping you. You break it down into a few different sessions, and it really makes it go a lot easier, and it's a lot more enjoyable.
All right, let's start back to the beginning here. What you do in the field when you put that animal down, that actually can play a role in the quality of your game product at the end, can it?
Oh, yes, for sure. And there's a lot of factors that are beyond your control. I mean, a quick, clean harvest is the best, of course. So you don't want the animal to have been stressed. You don't want it having lay all night. But these are things that happen in the real world that you have no control over. But a proper field dressing, get it cooled off, get it hanging and bled out as quick as possible. All these things will get you a better finished product.
And then, do you hang your deer, weather permitting?
Yes, I always hang them. The only time I would not hang them, the exception would be extremely warm weather, or if you don't have a place where you can hang it. I mean, even if you're in a remote camp, you can sling one up in a tree or something. Hanging it, I think, is key, but there have been situations where it was very warm or the people didn't have that option, and you can skin and quarter it up, put it in game bags, put it in coolers, put it in any totes or vessels you may have, and that's just fine, but you're going to have a little more blood in the finished product if it can't hang and bleed out properly.
So that's what the hanging does. It lets it bleed out, and then also it does, does it give you a more tender meat?
It does if you...
hold on, Mike. Hey, Mike, I lost you just for a second. I'm going to ask the question again because our cell cut out. Does it give you more tender meat at the end if you hang it at all?
It can if you properly age the meat. What it does mainly, the number one thing hanging does is it gets a lot of the blood and any fluids that are left in the carcass. It allows them to drain out and get away from the meat. If you age the deer, which I like to do, if you have that luxury, if the weather permitting, you can let it hang for 3-4 days, maybe a little longer. Some like it longer, some like it shorter. That may help the muscle fibers to break down during that time, and it can make the meat a little more tender, and it'll definitely be cleaner with less blood in it.
So what temperature range are you looking at being able to do this?
Well, you don't want it to freeze solid, of course, because I've had that happen from time to time. But ideally, you want something in the 40s. You know, if it gets cool at night, don't be put off if it's 60 during the day. If you've got that thing in a shed or somewhere in the shade and it's hanging and it gets down in the high 30s to mid 40s at night, I feel that about the low to mid 40s is ideal for hanging. And I like to leave the hide on so the meat doesn't dry out. A lot of fellows like to skin it right away because it's easier because the animal's warm. But if you're going to allow it to hang, you should leave the hide on it. That keeps the meat from drying out. It keeps the quality of it up really well, and it helps to kind of insulate that meat. So when it did get cool the previous night, it helps to hold that coolness in so it doesn't heat up as fast during the day if it happens to get up in that 60 to mid 60 degree range.
Okay, do you hang it head up or head down?
I prefer head down, and 2 reasons. The number one reason is gravity works on all the remaining blood and bodily fluids that are left in the animal. If you hang it with the head up, all the fluids will be drawn by gravity toward the hindquarters and the tail end of the deer, whereas most of us know the hindquarters are your prime steaks, your larger prime cuts of meat. So if you hang it from the head, it all drains down toward the hindquarters. If you hang it from the hindquarters, it all drains down toward the head. That's the number one reason I hang them from the hindquarters. Number 2 is if you hang it from the hindquarters, I feel it's much easier to skin the animal. You start by the hocks in the back, you cut the tail off, you just pull it down toward the head. When you're down as far as you can get down the neck, you cut the head off, you've got the head, the hide, and everything. You can discard right there. It's a lot cleaner result. You don't have to start around the neck. If you hang it from the head, you get a lot more hair on the meat. It's a little more cumbersome to get the thing skinned.
We're talking with Mike Horswill of Jay's Sporting Goods, jaysportinggoods.com. If you go to Jay's in Clare, you're likely to find Mike back in the archery department, but he is an absolute expert. He is a master at processing your own wild game. By the way, Jay's has a lot of products and equipment to do that as well, jaysportinggoods.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, more with Mike on how to process your own deer, specifically this time around. Maybe some tips and tricks and some advice. And then we'll switch gears and talk with Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats. If you don't want to do your own deer, maybe they can help you out as well. That's all coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.